Professor Park, thank you so much for taking time to speak with MediaNama on this important issue of network usage fees. There is a lot of citation of the Korea case, of the South Korea case, where Netflix is being charged, I believe, for using the telecom operator networks, or so they claim. And I think there is some amount of misunderstanding in India about why this has happened and what exactly is happening in South Korea. I was wondering if you could tell us about what is happening in South Korea with respect to the network usage fees and how this has happened.
I just participated in APL-IGF, and I was asked to make a short presentation on this issue. So it's important because you have to understand what the standard internet is first. Then we can understand what network usage fee is. So let me just share a screen. Internet became successful as it is now because basically it is ultimate crowdsourcer of data delivery cost. Before the internet, you had to pay like $2 to $10 for international phone call per minute. Now, post the internet, like 100 people can be on a Zoom call for hours for practically free. How was this made possible? The internet, you can communicate with people that you choose to communicate with without gatekeeper in between. That's why we say internet, there's no center in the internet. Now, for that to happen, if you look at the diagram, if there are 6 computers that want to directly talk to each other, you need to choose the diagram in the center that says fully connected. But that is expensive because as the number of computers to connect increases, the number of connections required increases by its square. So if you have like 1 billion computers to connect, you need 1 billion times 1 billion connections to achieve the full connectivity. This is where the invention or the promise of the internet comes in. On internet, every participant in the network delivers everyone else's data without charging money, without any condition. That way, it made the data delivery cost 0 for everybody. It's like, I'll scratch your back, you'll scratch mine. It just removed the transactional cost, which would have just broke down the internet. And that is what made possible the massive, almost free communication that's made possible by the internet. Let me just come back to the transactional cost. Let's say if we charge each other data delivery cost, then you'll have to calculate how many computers are involved in delivering a message from point A to point B. And then the sender or receiver will have to receive bills from each of the computers that are in the middle. That would have just killed the internet. But by just exempting each other from data delivery cost, what we have now is that everyone just pays only to connect to the internet. So everybody just pays internet access fee. Nobody really pays for the amount of data you use, but just for the capacity of the connection that they have to the internet. That's what made the information revolution possible. And this is scientifically okay because as electromagnetic signals constituting data travel through the medium, the cost is almost 0. It's like light ricocheting of mirrors. That doesn't cost any money. That's why, like when you watch TV, you don't pay more to like television station for watching more TV, right? Doing this crowdsourcing is scientifically sustainable because if there was a lot of cost involved in data propagation, then some people may say, oh, this I scratch your back, you scratch mine. This doesn't work because I deliver more data than I send, so I don't get much out of it. There would have been more fight. There would have been more disputes about inequality. But because of this because the science supports the theme that data delivery doesn't cost a lot. I mean, costs almost nothing, that this crowdsourcing is made possible. Now, this science also is the reason why look at the graph on the right side, between 2018 and 2021, data traffic increased by like 5 times, right? 1,000 exabytes per annum to 5,000 exabytes per annum, 5 times. But network maintenance costs remain the same. The green bar remained the same. So that's why this, that's the standard internet. That's the standard internet. Data delivery, nobody used to pay data delivery cost, but now people are saying, now in South Korea, began to charge sender pay. Now, sender pay only among the ISPs, only among the internet service providers, basically telcos, but the impact of that has been terrible, because imagine the network operator, imagine ISP hosting very popular content, right? Now, if you're ISP and if you host a popular content, by being popular, customers of other ISPs will want that data, right? Will want to access that content, which means you, the telco or ISP hosting the popular content, will have to send data to other ISPs, which means you will now have to make payment under the sender pay rule. So it makes it this gives disincentives across the board among ISPs to refuse to host popular content. That means if the sellers are not willing to sell services, what does it mean? Well, they have freedom to increase prices. So as a result, if you look at the bar diagram on the right side, this is the 2017. So Korea instituted sender pay rule among ISPs in 2016, and the result became apparent in 2017. And in 2017, the cost of 1 Mbps IP transit fee in Paris, it was 45 cents per month. In Seoul, it was $3.77. And look at the comparisons. It's like 8 times Paris, 5-6 times in New York or LA, 8 times or 7 times Germany, and that trend continued to 2021, where you can see Seoul IP transit fee in Seoul is like 8 times London and 10 times Frankfurt. Well, what does it mean? This means this will suppress innovation, especially the ones that use video or real-time information processing. Like Watcha, that's a domestic video service, in 2021 had to pay 10% of their revenue as internet access fees. And 2020, during COVID, there was an app that informed the people, where the infections were found, so that people can avoid it. That app, the app operator complained the app was not fully functioning because internet access fee was just too much. So this really has a suppressive effect on development of the internet economy. That's why in Korea, after Naver and Kakao, which are the 2 dominant platforms, we have not seen any unicorn. That is what's happening in Korea now. I'll stop there in terms of explaining, what's going on in Korea.
Thank you for this, Professor Park. This is very, very useful because the understanding of this issue is fairly limited in India. Especially in terms of what's happening in Korea. I wanted to ask, one of the arguments that telecom operators in India make is that most internet access is via telecom, and there are issues of throughput, there are issues of congestion, where a lot of people are watching video on the telecom networks at the same time. And therefore, in order to address that, they need to invest more in base stations and they need to invest in infrastructure. And because internet access rates are so low in India, they're unable to make that money to invest in infrastructure. How would you address that argument?
That's a good point, because what I talked about so far, that you pay for the capacity of the connection. So you pay for connection, not for traffic. That is 100% true for wired internet. But for wireless internet, the user experience has been different. On wireless side, you do pay for data traffic. So you have like 5 giga quota per month, or 10 giga. But there it is the demand. I mean, on the wireless internet, what you pay for, the reason that it is usage based, unlike the wired internet, on wireless, it is usage based. It is because they own, the telcos own exclusive kind of proprietary network of access points.
Yes.
Which are not owned by anybody else. So to get those mobile phones online, they have to have these access points built, right? They can charge according to the so there is no crowdsourcing possible, because access points of different telcos do not talk to one another. This is not like a wired internet where routers of one ISP talk to routers of other ISP. On wireless, it just doesn't work that way. So I can understand why on the user side, you are charged for volume of data that you use.
But they're saying that they should charge companies as well for that volume of data.
Well, if companies are using the mobile phones as well, then that will make sense. But the companies, when you say companies, we are talking about the companies are different from individuals, because the companies mostly send out data a lot of times, and users are usually downloading data. Although there are times the users upload as well, but the comparison is.
So what they're saying is that users should pay. That companies should pay for users to be able to access those services. Companies should pay the telecom operators their network usage fees.
Right.
At the consumer end.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, that's the argument that I want to take on. Basically, the content providers, they are not sending data out through those access points, right? They are using the traditional internet. They are using the wired internet. So there is no economic reason why they need to change the standard internet architecture that I described earlier. Because on the sending side, everything is the same. So you should, on the wireless, you should just see the internet exactly the same as wired internet. And then there is this overlay of access points to get the smartphones participate in the network. So because those access points are kind of proprietarily owned by, exclusively and proprietarily owned by different telcos, it's totally understandable that people downloading from those access points are charged by usage.
So basically, consumers should pay.
Right. Consumers should pay for, and that just makes total economic sense, because they use the internet to access points. Content providers, they don't send data through mobile connection. They send data through the existing traditional wired connection.
So my other question, Professor Park, is an argument that we're hearing as well in India, is that telecom operators have to move from, they moved from 3G to 4G, now they need to move from 4G to 5G. And eventually when 6G comes, they need to move from 5G to 6G. So they have to keep upgrading their networks, and that is expensive. And because of the highly competitive market in India, they're not able to charge or increase rates for consumers. And yet, because more consumers are now consuming more data over wireless in India. So just as for context, India has about 98% usage on wireless. India has about the cost of data for a consumer is about 10 cents per GB, 10 US cents per GB. And the average user consumes 19 GB of data per month. So, and that is increasing rapidly, and the cost is coming down. So, telecom operators say that they need to charge companies so that they can improve their infrastructure instead of
Or,
charging consumers.
or so if there are more access points, okay, well, first thing, I mean, I want to share this again. This graph that you see, how the data traffic has increased 5 times, but network maintenance costs remain the same. I mean, that includes CAPEX too. That's capital expenditure too, right? CAPEX, not just OPEX, but CAPEX too, right? The green bar. CAPEX is the cost of building new access points, right? So the cost of building the new access points and the cost of maintaining existing access points, that is all included in that green bar, and it has remained the same. But because of technological progress, you can still handle this increased traffic, increased data volume, just maintaining the same level of investment every year. I mean, I know that telcos are saying, they need more money this way or that way, but the numbers just don't show that. And this is the same thing in same thing in Europe, same thing in US, true everywhere. Look at the figure. Look at the top: fixed and mobile access networks. Right. This if you aggregate fixed access network and mobile access network, the increase in traffic does not increase network maintenance or network building cost. That's my first point. The second point is, if the telcos feel the social responsibility to handle all that communication among people, they should allow more telcos to come into the market so that those telcos can build more access points. And not necessarily in the same region competing with the existing ones, right? But here, it is the telcos that lobby the government to make it more difficult to get a new, to give out new license for new telcos. Google was also investing in mobile access loan project. Facebook was, doing the also the Wi-Fi through the solar planes. Musk is not. I guess
Doing
Musk is now doing satellites. I mean, are they being welcomed by existing telcos? No, they are seen as a threat. I know that they are seen as a threat because Korean telcos, they lobby the government to ban municipal internet. In Korea, municipalities, they cannot set up their own internet. They cannot provide internet service to their citizens. So I'm not saying that it's telco's fault, because it's the policymakers and legislators who became friends of telcos that are doing this. But if they want to present internet access as kind of their social responsibility, then more actors should be allowed to do this, to provide access network. One more point. Third point is that when we talk about internet, we no longer, we do not use internet like only within our country, right? When you use internet, there are times that you have to get the content, you have to access the servers, say in the US, right? So somebody has to deliver the data from the US to, for instance, India, so that Indian telcos can distribute that through people, the users in India. In that instance, in that data itinerary, Indian telcos are only talking about the cost of building the access network, like on the user side. Who is delivering data from the US server to India? Indian telcos are not paying for it.
Correct.
Yeah, it is a Google and Facebook that are paying a lot of money to build this under the sea cables that are delivering data to the doorstep of India, so that Indian telcos can distribute to the users. Google and Facebook are not charging the telcos for the trans-Pacific delivery or transoceanic delivery.
So could you tell us once again about how is Netflix being charged? Like, what do they have to pay for, and how much do they have to pay?
In Korea now?
In Korea, yes.
In Korea, they are not being charged because the law has not been extended to include content providers as the parties obligated to make the payment. So far, standard pay rule applies only among ISPs.
So that means that so there was a court case between Netflix and SK Telecom. What happened there, and how is it?
That is still in the pipeline. In the lower court, on the surface, SK Telecom won, SK Telecom won, but the court said, okay, network access, like a connection, network connection, is not necessarily free, right? So there has to be compensation for network connection. So the court said, if the Netflix wants to do business in Korea by delivering movies to Korean users, and if Netflix needs to connect with the telcos, it doesn't have to be free. If the telcos want, they can charge money. But the court also said the bargain doesn't have to be money.